Right now, someone is lying to you. Maybe it happened this morning. Maybe it will happen tonight. And somewhere deep inside you, a part of your brain already knows it. You just do not know how to listen to it anymore. But your ancestors could. For hundreds of thousands of years before language became complex, before contracts or courts or handshakes meant anything, humans survived by reading each other. Not with words, not with logic, with something older, something chemical, something that no one talks about because it sounds too strange to be true, and yet the science is undeniable. You were built to smell deception, and you lost the ability to trust what you smell. Here is where it starts. In 2015, a team of researchers at the Monell Chemical Senses Center in Philadelphia published a study that sent a quiet shockwave through the field of evolutionary psychology. They were studying fear. Specifically, they were studying whether fear could be chemically transmitted between humans. What they found went far beyond what they were looking for. The sweat of a person who was genuinely frightened, collected during their first skydive, triggered heightened vigilance in people who smelled it. But here is the part nobody talks about. The sweat from a person who was lying about their emotional state triggered a completely different neurological response. The body seemed to know the signal was wrong. The smell of a lie is not a metaphor. It is chemistry. Your body produces something called chemosignals. These are trace chemical compounds released through your sweat glands, your breath, your skin, in response to emotional states. Every emotional experience, fear, excitement, disgust, deception, generates a unique chemical signature. Anthropologist and biochemist Denise Chen at Rice University spent years documenting this. She found that humans can unconsciously detect the emotional state of another person through smell alone, even when they are completely unaware of it, even when they think they are just standing in a room. Think about that for a moment. You walk into a meeting, you shake someone's hand, and before a single word is spoken, your body has already begun collecting chemical data. Your ancestors did not have boardrooms. They did not have legal systems. They did not have the luxury of giving someone the benefit of the doubt. When you lived in a group of 40 or 50 people on an open savanna, and your survival depended entirely on cooperation, a single defector could kill everyone. A person who took more than their share of food. A person who pretended to be injured to avoid the hunt. A person who lied about where the water was. Deception was a biological threat, and your immune system evolved to detect it. Here is where it gets stranger. In 2023, researchers at the University of Gothenburg in Sweden published a landmark study on what they called social chemosignaling. They exposed participants to sweat samples from individuals in 4 emotional states: genuine happiness, genuine fear, genuine disgust, and deliberate deception, where participants were instructed to lie about what they were feeling. Then they measured the brain activity and behavioral responses of the people doing the smelling. The results were extraordinary. People exposed to the deception, sweat showed increased activity in the anterior cingulate cortex, the part of the brain responsible for conflict detection and error monitoring. The brain was flagging something, not consciously, not in language, just a quiet, insistent signal. Something is wrong here. The problem is that you have been trained to ignore that signal. Modern life is a continuous exercise in overriding your biological instincts. From the time you are a child, you are taught that feelings are not facts, that you need evidence, that you cannot accuse someone without proof, that politeness matters more than your gut. You sit across from someone who is lying to you, your anterior cingulate cortex is firing, your amygdala is elevated, your skin conductance is rising, and you smile and nod because that is what civilized people do. You have been domesticating your own threat detection system for your entire life. And the irony is that the people who lie to you know this. They count on it. Now think about the animals that have not lost this ability. Dogs can detect cancer, not through training alone, but through smell. They can detect the emotional distress of their owners through airborne chemical signals. In 2021, a study from Queen's University Belfast demonstrated that dogs could identify, with remarkable accuracy, the sweat and breath samples of humans experiencing psychological stress. They were not guessing. They were reading a chemical language that exists whether or not you acknowledge it. You used to read that language too. The question is not whether the ability is still inside you. It is. The research is clear. Your olfactory system, the most evolutionarily ancient part of your sensory apparatus, still processes chemosignals. Your brain still reacts to them. The question is whether you have learned to listen. Researcher Johan Lundström at the Karolinska Institute in Stockholm has spent decades studying the intersection of smell and social behavior. His work shows that the human olfactory system has a direct, unmediated pathway to the limbic system, the emotional core of your brain, bypassing the rational prefrontal cortex entirely. Every other sense has to pass through a relay station. Smell does not. It hits your emotional brain first. Your rational brain finds out second. This is why a smell can transport you instantly to a memory without warning. This is why the smell of smoke bypasses all deliberation and sends you running. And this is why, when something smells wrong about a person, it registers as a feeling before it registers as a thought. You call it intuition. Your ancestors called it survival. But here is the twist that changes everything. The same chemical system that allowed your ancestors to detect lies also allowed them to perform them. Chemosignaling is a two-way street. If your body broadcasts your emotional state, then a skilled deceiver, someone who has learned to suppress their own fear response, who can control their breathing, regulate their cortisol, stay genuinely calm while saying something false, becomes almost undetectable. The most dangerous liars are not nervous. They are calm. And your threat detection system, which evolved to catch anxious, guilty, afraid liars, the ones whose body was betraying their deception, has no good defense against someone who has learned to feel nothing while deceiving you. Psychopaths, for instance, do not produce the same chemosignals as anxious liars. Their bodies are not betraying them because they do not experience guilt as a physiological state. This is not a flaw in your system. It is a gap that opened when human social complexity outpaced your biology. For 99% of human history, the liars you encountered were people you knew, people in your group, people who were afraid of being caught, people whose bodies would leak the chemical truth of what they were doing. The system worked because it was designed for that world. You do not live in that world anymore. You live in a world of strangers, of screens, of voices without bodies, of emails and contracts and platforms and profiles. Your chemosensory threat detection system requires proximity. It requires physical presence. It requires the actual molecules that float off another human body and enter your nasal cavity and hit your olfactory receptors and travel, unfiltered, straight to your limbic system. None of that happens over a text message. And so the oldest security system in your body sits largely unused, gathering evolutionary dust, occasionally firing when someone stands too close and something feels wrong and you cannot explain why. But it is still there. It has not left you. The research of Alexei Bhattacharjee at Columbia Business School found that people are actually better at detecting deception than they believe they are, but only when they trust their immediate instinctive response. When people were asked to make a rapid gut-level judgment about whether someone was lying, they were significantly more accurate than when they were given time to think it through and apply logic. The deliberate, rational mind second-guesses. The ancient mind knows. The problem is, you have been told your whole life that the second-guessing is the smart part. Think about the last time you ignored a feeling about someone and regretted it. Not a thought, a feeling. That thing that happened in your chest or your stomach before your brain caught up. That was not anxiety. That was your olfactory cortex, your anterior cingulate, your amygdala, your entire ancient social nervous system running a threat assessment that took hundreds of thousands of years to develop and handing you the result in the only language it has. A sensation. Your ancestors could smell a lie because they had no other choice. They listened to the feeling because they had no word for it yet. They acted on it because the cost of ignoring it was death. You have words now. You have logic. You have courts and contracts and evidence and due process. And these things matter. They are real advances. But in the process of building all of them, you learn to silence the signal that came before all of them. Right now, someone is lying to you. And somewhere deep inside you, a part of your brain already knows it. The question your ancestors never had to ask is the one you are left with. Are you willing to listen?